All right, today we're going to take a look at simplifying expressions. We did a little bit of that last week, so let me grab my drawing tools and let's get a blue pen. There we go. So I'm going to just do like a couple of problems in the very top and the very middle, and then we're going to bounce through a little bit of this packet. So right here, if you look at the top, number 1, it deals with terms. There's 4 different terms, and they want you to simplify. So what they're asking you to do is they're asking you to put the common terms together. So I'm going to look at the 4 terms. I have a 5, a plain old 5. There's no x's with it. Then I have an x that's squared. Then I have a plain old 3, no x's with it. Then I have a 3x. So the only terms that can truly be put together are the 5 and the 3. And now this is really key. Everyone's like, well, what do I do? Do I add them? Do I subtract them? This is a real good way to think about it. I know the 5 and the 3 have to go together. The term in front of the 3 is going to be your operation. So you're going to now go 5 minus 3. That's how you're going to put those together. So 5 minus 3 is going to give you a 2. I'm going to cross those out. And then you're left with an x squared and a 3x. And the x squared doesn't go with anything because there's no other squareds, x squareds. We can just put plus x squared. And the 3x doesn't go with anything, so you can just put plus 3x. And that's truly all you can do to simplify this. So let's take a look at number 2. I'm going to underline the terms that look alike. There's 2 terms that have a y, so I can combine those. And that's not all you're going to do, but take a look at those. 2y, use the term in front of the 17y. It's a plus. So you're going to go 2y plus 17y because of this plus sign right here. So 2y plus 17y gives you 19y. The numbers can be combined as well. When there's just plain old numbers with no letters, they can always be combined. So the symbol in front of the 5 is just telling you that it's a positive 5. So this is saying positive 5. Let me change my color real quick. Oops. Hold on one second. I'm so bad at this mouse thing. Hold on. Here we go. Change your pen color for 1 second. So this is a positive 3 plus 8. You're going to plus 8 because the symbol in front, or the sign in front of the 8 is going to tell you what you're going to do. Let's try to go back. Change our color back to blue. 5 plus 8 gives me positive 13. It's a positive 13, so I'm going to put plus 13. That's it. You've combined your like terms. Can't go any further. One term has a y, one term doesn't. You're done. Okay, I'm going to skip over to number 8. Look at number 8. Here we are right here. All right, let's take a look at what we have. I see y squared, and it's almost like a puzzle. You're like looking through, you're scanning, you want to see what goes together. So I have 5y squared. It's positive because there's no sign in front of it. So unless there was a negative sign, the default is kind of positive. Like if you say you're 21 years old, you're obviously a positive 21 years old, but you don't need to say positive. But if you were talking about something like degrees, like you could say it's 70 degrees, it's positive. If you said it's negative 18, when it's negative, you kind of got to put a negative in front of it. Okay, so 5y squared minus, see it? 3y squared. Minus is the operation. 5y squared minus 3y squared gives us 2y squared. I see a 4, positive 4. I'm not going to change my color. It's too much of a project. Plus 5. 4 plus 5 gives me 9. I'm going to cross out all the terms because there's so many, and that's when you notice, oops, I left this little y dude out. Pop them in there. Okay. So that's combining like terms. I'm actually going to go now to number 7, but I'm going to rewrite number 7 at the top because we're getting a little squishy. So I'm in the top left corner right now. I'm going to rewrite number 7, and it's 16x plus 6 times the quantity. That's what that parenthesis means, x minus 2. So you probably have learned how to distribute at some point in your life. If you haven't, all that means is 6 is being multiplied to everything inside the parentheses. So you have to, give 6 to the x, give 6 to the 2. So you have to distribute the 6 to the x and to the 2. So I'm going to rewrite this problem here. I'm going to write 16x, because nothing happens here, plus 6x, 6 times x. It's a positive 6 times a positive x. And I have a positive 6 times a negative 2. Positive 6 times negative 2 gives you negative 12. So after you distribute, it looks exactly like 1, 2, or 8. Take a look at your common terms. You've got 16x plus 6x. That gives you 22x. And then just write minus 12. The 12 doesn't go with anybody. So hopefully that helped you distribute. We're going to take a look at number 5. I'm going to rewrite it. More distribution. And I highly recommend, like I tell all of my students, when you see me write a problem down, pause the video. Try it on your own. Play the video. Watch my work. Rewind it. Try it again. Like videos aren't, you don't have to watch this start to finish and then be like, I didn't get it. Like they kind of, it's almost like, I don't know if you ever made those pot holders when you were little with the little crochet thing and you just kind of weaved the pieces with that little fork thing. If you know what I'm talking about, that's kind of how you're working your video. You're weaving it into your knowledge. You're just stopping it, starting it, rewinding it, using the parts that you need. Okay, so not off topic. I copied number 5 down. I'm going to distribute the 4. That gives me 4y plus 32. 4 times y, 4 times 8. Now I have a positive 3. That's what that plus sign means. So positive 3 times y is a plus 3y. Positive 3 times negative 6 is a negative 18. And at this point, you're just going to combine your like terms. You're probably starting to get pretty good at this. I have 4y plus 3y, which gives me 7y. Then I have 32 minus 18. So 32 minus 18 is going to give you 14, positive 14. And you can leave it just like that. So today's lesson is, expressions with variables. Expressions are just chunks of stuff without an equal sign. Things you can do to expressions, you can clean them up, which is what we're doing. You can evaluate them if I give you a value to stick in them. That's pretty much it. That's all you can do with expressions. Moving forward, in the next couple weeks, you'll get into equations. That's with the equal signs. And you can solve them and you can graph them. And oh my gosh, you can do so many crazy fun things with equations. But expressions, not too much. Okay, so this was combining like terms, cleaning up expressions. So we did number 7, we did number 5. I'm going to circle them right here. One more that I want to do. I actually want to do number 6. It looks like it's super easy, and there's this little thing in number 6 that is just kind of a stinker. It gets people, so I thought I would point it out to you so it doesn't happen to you. So I have 5 minus. Then I have a parenthesis, x minus 3. Then I have plus 4x. Okay, think. All the other problems with parentheses, I'm like, okay, we'll distribute the number that's outside of it. And in this case, you're like, do I distribute the 5? Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to distribute. When this happens, that little minus sign means that there's a negative 1. That's a negative 1. Now I'm going to change my color. It's actually worth it to stop and like change your color. That really means negative 1 right here. That little negative sign is a negative 1. You're going to distribute a negative 1 into your parentheses. So I'm going to change my color back to blue. Okay. This gives us 5, and a negative 1 times x just gives us negative x, and a negative 1 times a negative 3, negative times negative, gives us plus 3. Now, you're not going to keep distributing. You did it to everything inside the parentheses. Copy down your plus 4x. And then just combine your like terms. You have 5 plus 3, which is 8. You have negative x plus 4x, which is a positive 3x. There you go. That's it. 8 plus 3x. Okay, stop, take these notes. This was simplifying expressions. This is pretty much as crazy as it gets. So we worked on combining like terms, we worked on distributing, and we also worked on distributing those tricky negative ones. So I'm going to erase this now. So if you want these notes, make sure you pause the video so you can take them. I'm going to go to the eraser tool and get rid of them all. Okay, so I can now, whoops, let me erase that. I keep forgetting. I have to change it back to my mouse. Now I can scroll. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to do a couple from section B. Evaluate each expression. So like I said, there's only 2 things you can do to expressions. You can simplify them, like part A says, and you can evaluate them, like part B says. So what they want you to do in part B is they'll give you this expression, and instead of cleaning it up, they'll say, well, here's all this stuff. What would happen if you popped, in this case for number 11, a 2 in for your x? Like, how would this whole thing shake out? So you would evaluate it. So let's take a look at this. I'm going to try to shrink this size just a little bit. There, gives us more room to write. Let me get my drawing tool, get my blue pen. There we go. Come on, stinker. There we go. Okay. So I have 6 times the parenthesis, x plus 2 plus 7. And then they're telling you, I'm doing number 11, by the way, and they're telling you, find that value when x is equal to 2. So I'm going to rewrite this whole problem, and I'm going to pretend like x is a ghost and you're not going to see him. So I'm going to go 6 parenthesis blank plus 2 parenthesis plus 7. See the x, it's a ghost. I didn't write it in. And I'm going to change my color. I'm big on changing my color. I wish it wasn't such a project. Sorry. I'll put purple in. Red kind of looks negative. Okay, what happens if x is 2? All right, well, let's pop it in there. So notice I replaced the x with a 2 because they said find the value when x is equal to 2. Do the arithmetic. You could distribute if you wanted to, but in this case, honestly, I think simplest would just be to do parentheses, exponent. Here, remember we did this last week, PEMDAS. Parentheses, exponent, multiply, divide, add, subtract. So here you have 6 times 4, because 2 plus 2 is 4, plus 7. So I did the parentheses, and I'm going to multiply. 6 times 4 gives me 24. And I'm going to add these 2 together. So this gives me 31. So that's my final answer. So again, simplifying is when you have this whole big long expression and you kind of just clean it up a little bit, evaluate. They're going to give you a number, you're going to pop it in, and you're going to evaluate what would happen if that number was, replacing your letters. And letters are called variables. Okay, let's go back to blue. And you know what, let's pop down here to number 18. So I'm going to copy number 18 over here. I'm going to put 3 times the parentheses, 2x minus y, all over 3, plus 6 times y minus 5. And you think, okay, that's crazy. Like, that's way bigger than the other one that she gave us. And there's 2 letters. Don't worry, just leave them as blanks, go real slow. So I have 3 times 2, now there's an x there. I'm just going to put a little mark so I remember, minus a y all over 3, plus 6, I'm supposed to have a little y in here, minus 5. Okay, let's change our color. And we're changing it to pink this time. Okay, so the problem says x is going to be represented by -2, and y is going to be represented by 3. So I go in and I look for my little x's, and I only have one, it's right here. So it says to replace this with a -2. So 2x really means 2 times x. So 2 times x is the same as 2 times -2. They want you to replace the x with a -2. Then they said replace the y's with a 3. So here's a y. Okay, it goes right here. And you had a plus, you had a 6, you had a parenthesis. There's another y, replace it with a 3. You're going to go slow. You're going to do the order of operations. We did this last week. I'm going to go back to my blue pen for a second. Okay, so inside the parentheses, you have 2 times -2, which is a -4. I'm just going to literally copy all of this. This is all over 3 plus 6. And inside those parentheses, 3 minus 5, that gives you a -2. So I kind of wanted to clean that one up. The other parenthesis, I'm going to bounce back to it on the left. You had a -4 minus 3. -4 minus 3. And in this case, it told you could use your calculator. So -4 minus 3 gives you -7. Okay, so let's continue. We have 3 times -7 divided by 3 plus 6 times -2. 3 times -7 is -21 divided by 3 plus 6 times -2. You're doing all your multiplication and division from left to right. So I just did a multiplication, the 3 times -7. I'm going to do some division. -21 divided by 3 gives me -7. And then I can just take the positive 6 times the -2, gives you -12. So stop and make sure you understand the signs. I had a negative divided by a positive, which gave me a negative. And then I had 2 terms multiplied, a positive times a negative. It gave me a negative. So I use that negative as my sign, and you can interchange it as addition or subtraction. I now have -7 minus 12, which gives me -19. So yeah, that was a lot bigger than the first one that we did. It's the exact same work. You take your x's, you take your y's, you take whatever letters they give you, you put the numbers in, and you evaluate it. If you want to write this down, make sure you pause the video. I'm going to erase it. We're going to try one more from this section, and then we're going to do the multiple choice questions that you see in front of you, because these are really good practice tools for your test. So let me get rid of those. Okay, so I'm just going to, before we forget, I'm going to cross out number 11, and I'm going to cross out number 18 because we did those. So just looking at this, I'm going to do number 15. There's no fractions, but I do see a negative sign that would be really good practice. It does have 2 variables. So I have 8 times x plus 9 times y minus, see that minus sign? And I have a whole parenthesis, 2x plus y. Okay. It says represent your x's with the 4, your y's with the 6. So I'm going to rewrite this with blank. So I have 8 times x, putting a blank, plus 9 times y, I'm putting a blank, minus, open parenthesis, 2 times x, so there's a blank, plus y, so there's another blank. So let's take our color. I think that pink really stood out. There we go. Okay. X is going to equal 4. Here's an x. Here's an x. 8 times 4. Skim over to where the other one is. 2 times 4. Y is going to equal 6. So I have 9 times 6. And then I have plain old 6 right here. Okay, stop. Make sure you understand where all those letters, like what all those letters were replaced by, excuse me. Make sure you understand where the numbers came from. I'm going to change my color back to blue. There we go. And then we'll just evaluate. So PEMDAS, parentheses. The first 2 things, those aren't parentheses, those are multiplication. This little guy right here is the only, you know, I'm trying to, so hard to get my tool because I have, this is my mouse is a pen. Just have to show you, so it makes things difficult. So this right here, I'm trying to use my other mouse, that's the only set of parentheses. So let me highlight them right here. These are parentheses. The rest of those little dudes, not the one on the inside, the one on the outside, the rest of those are just a sign for multiplication. So let me go back to the pen. So inside the set of parentheses, I have 2 times 4, which is 8. And then I have 8 plus 6, which is 14. Okay, that's what's in the parentheses. So now I'm going to rewrite the problem. I have 8 times 4 plus 9 times 6 minus 14. Okay, remember I told you that that's really like having a -1 out here? -1 times 14. That's kind of like what's happening. So I'm going to take my problem. I'm going to multiply from left to right. I have 32 plus 54 minus 14. And again, this is a section you can use a calculator on. Highly recommend you pause it, try it, and then watch me. And now I'm going to add and subtract from left to right. So this gives me, let's see, 86. And 86 minus 14 is going to give me 72. Okay, so we've finished the lesson, expressions with variables, part 2. Now I want to do these 3 problems. They're multiple choice, just like the test. So the 21, let's see, is exactly like what we started with. 22 is like what we just did. So one of them is to simplify, one of them is to evaluate, and then we've got a little bit of a word problem, just a little bit. All right, so I'm going to erase again, so we have a nice clean slate to do these 3 problems. Erase, there we go. Okay, let's start with 21. I'm write it in the top left corner. Here's 21, and I'm going to rewrite it. It says, which of the following expressions is equal to blah, 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 like all that stuff. So let's write it down. 3x squared plus 3 times the quantity, x minus 3, plus x plus 10. First things first, distribute. I'm going to copy the 3x squared. 3 times x is 3x. Positive 3 times negative 3. Remember, that's a positive 3 times a negative 3. Negative 9. Copy plus x, copy the plus 10. I already can see that the first term would be a 3x squared, right? You can already see that. Cross that out. That eliminates a. I always like to check and see what I can eliminate. Okay. Next thing, I'm going to combine my x terms. I have a 3x plus an x. Think about what happens when there's an x. Sometimes there's a plus in front of it. Sometimes there's a minus in front of it. When you don't see a coefficient, coefficient is the number in front of a variable. Coefficient is the number in front of a letter. When you don't see a number, it's 1. You do not say, I have 1 apple in my bowl. You say, I have an apple. Okay, I have an x. So this is technically 1. 3x plus 1x gives you a positive 4x. Well, just eliminated C. Now I have a negative 9 plus 10. You have to make sure that those signs are accounted for. Negative 9 plus 10 is a positive 1. So you should be able to see that D is your answer. D as in dog. Check. Again, maybe try it again. Maybe go back, rewind, try the problem. It's okay to do the same problem 2 or 3 times. Sometimes it's helpful to do the same problem 2 or 3 times. So number 22, they give us an expression. It's 4x squared minus 3 times y plus 6. Oops, hold on. And then they say, given the expression 4x squared minus 3 times the quantity y plus 6, which of the following values for x and y will result in a value of negative 11? So what they want us to do is they want us to plug all of those combinations in. It's going to take a little while. So let's, you can start with the first one. So they said first replace the x with a 2 and replace the y with a 3. Okay, so notice what I just did. Let me change my color. I should have done this before. So I'm entering these values. So I put a 2 in for x. I put a 3 in for y. And sometimes you can stop ahead of time because you can already tell that they're incorrect, but let's just shake this one out and see what happens. So 2 squared is 4. 2 squared is 2 times 2. And you know what? I should have done the parenthesis first. 3 plus 6 gives you 9. So parenthesis, then the exponent, which we did. It's okay that we did it in that order at this point, but let's keep moving. 4 times 4 is 16. Negative 3 times 9 is a negative 27. Well, we certainly got lucky. Whew. Given the expression, which of the following values for x and y will result in a value of negative 11? Good thing it wasn't D. It was A. We don't have to test anymore. But in a problem like this, you would have to literally go through A, B, C, and D, plug the values in until you get the correct answer. You can start with the bottom. You could have started with D. You just would mark them that they were, they weren't correct until you found the correct one. So we're doing really well on time. It's been about a half hour. We're going to take a look at the last problem. Number 23. If the temperature is 68 degrees Fahrenheit, what's the temperature in Celsius? Look at the conversions above. The temperature is 68 degrees Fahrenheit. What is it in Celsius? So the first formula says to convert Fahrenheit to Celsius. The second one says to convert Celsius to Fahrenheit. We want the first one. We want to go from Fahrenheit to Celsius. So I'm going to take that formula, and again, I'm just going to continue to write in a straight line right down the left-hand side. This is number 23. I'm going to copy the formula first. I have C is equal to 5 over 9, parentheses, F minus 32. Now it says that the temperature is 68 degrees Fahrenheit. So again, they want you to evaluate this. They want you to take that 68, plug it in for the F. So it's 5 over 9 times. I'm going to change my color. I know it takes longer, but just think it makes more sense. So I'm going to take that 68 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm going to plug it into the F. Here's my 68. Right back up here to pull back my blue. There we go. Minus 32. Okay, 68 minus 32. That's going to give you a 36. I have 5 over 9 times 36. When I multiply a whole number times a fraction, I don't know if you remember this, if you skipped over it, if you even did this in fractions. Whenever this happens, take that whole number and pop it over a 1. And now you're like, you're comparing apples to apples. You've got a fraction times a fraction. So before you continue, see if you can cancel anything, and I can. 9 and 36. 9 divides into 9, and it also goes into 36. So 9 divided by 9, it's going to give me a 1. I'm going to cross that out and put a 1. 36 divided by 9, it's going to give me a 4. I'm going to cross that out and put a 4. Now, if you multiply across, you have 5 times 4, which is 20. You have 1 times 1, which is 1. I'm going to rewrite it as just 20. And they're saying if the temperature is 68 degrees Fahrenheit, what's the temperature in Celsius? It's 20 degrees Celsius. And if you look, it's multiple choice. The answer is A. So this is about a 30-minute lesson. I'm going to review what we reviewed real quick. Hold on one second. Let me erase my drawings and let me get my pointer back. There we go. I'm just going to scroll up a little bit. And if you have this packet, look at the packet. It's set. I'm pointing to it. I left the bottom so you can see it's called Algebra Basics, Expressions, and Polynomials. And I'll show you the top page to help for sure. But we did section A on page 16. You should be able to see that at the bottom. This is section A on 16, section B on page 16, and section C on page 16. All page 16. Lots of stuff. And remember these packets, there's tons of notes above this. So here's notes. You know, this was the section that we did before. Oops. You know, let me get all the way to the top of the packet. So I told you that was page 16. So let's give it a second to, it'll zhuzh out here in 1 second. I just kind of want you to see the page. It's just loading. It'll take a second. And if you need packets, make sure you contact Seeds. They'll give them to you. Hopefully you have this packet. That's why you're here. Wish it would load. Come on. It's taking quite a long time. It's taking a really long time. Here it comes. Almost tapped it. There we go. Stop, take a look at this packet. The number line and signed numbers is at the top of it. Just make sure you get a hold of it if you want to follow along. Thanks for watching. I hope it was helpful. Have a really good day.